Hey everyone, Draco Prime 220 here, and I believe in character growth. It is very important for any character through anything like film, movie, TV show, series, to grow as a character. Now, before anyone gets upset, I'm gonna say this. Rainbow Dash pretty much stayed the same of who she was in My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Is that a bad thing? Nah, not really. But, character growth is important, like I said. What if I were to tell you Rainbow Dash was put through the ringer and got so much character growth that you would stop and think, is this the same pony we're used to? And where did she get this massive character growth, you wonder? Well, it all started with a YouTuber who I am subscribed to, and she's awesome. She is really talented with her stories, her music, her songs, the characters, what they go through in the stories, and I am simply talking about MuseScript. MuseScript gave Rainbow Dash so much needed character arc. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything. I am going to touch on a couple things, like maybe some characters to look out for if you have not seen it. I'm not going to try and spoil every little detail that goes on. But, I'll be honest, I'm a sucker for a good story. I am. I love a good story. Yeah, I also like those, just those stories where you just turn off your mind for an hour and a half and just sit back, relax, and have fun. I'm also about that too. But I do like a good story. That's why I have really grown fond of these My Little Pony audio dramas. Sometimes they touch on things that the show never touches upon again. Before I get to those couple examples, just a little heads up. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know. Once I'm able to, I will let everyone know. I am going to do at some point reactions to some of the audio dramas that I have not seen in a long time. So, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to do some re-reactions to some of the MLP audio dramas that I haven't seen in a while to get up to speed, because some of them are either getting a sequel or they have a sequel. It's not just done yet. So yeah, I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm really hoping, this year. I'm really hoping. Once I upgrade, that's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm just going to have to figure some things out, how it works, because I'm going to be honest, believe it or not, I'm new to this YouTube thing, making videos and stuff like that. I've never done this, in a long time. I made a video maybe once way back, and I'm kind of rusty and new to this, so my apologies. But yeah, I'm gonna say this. Like I said, I'm a sucker for a good story, and like I said before, the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic touched on a couple things. Like, two things I'm gonna bring up. One of them is the infamous Alicorn amulet. Had great power, but would corrupt its user, but it was never brought up again. Never. Well, Magpie, also who I am subscribed to, I recommend her, by the way. She's awesome. She and Lost are awesome. She's like, let me touch upon that. you know, and that's the genius of some of these audio dramas, especially with the Alicorn Amulet, Princess Trixie Sparkle. Magpie gave us the answer to a question: is Alicorn Amulet, who did it belong to? Why would something like that be in some pawn shop? And the show, and was like, what if this did belong to someone? And spoilers, like, I just said spoilers, so please, if you have not seen Princess Trixie Sparkle, please just get off the video and watch it and you'll see what I mean. But if you're still here and you have seen it, or you just don't mind spoilers in general, well, Magpie gave us the answer of, what if Celestia and Luna had a third sister? Had a third sister. Yeah. And I'm gonna say this. I love a good villain. Estelle, she is... I'm sorry, if Daybreaker and Nightmare Moon both showed up, I'm sorry, between the Alicorn Amulet and Estelle's magic being boosted by it, I'm sorry, Nightmare Moon and Daybreaker would have a problem. And I could see that whole Tyrek fight between Twilight and Tyrek going entirely different if it was Estelle. Estelle would literally bury Tyrek permanently. This Alicorn Amulet in her story belongs to Estelle. And that's what I liked about it. It gave us a question that was never answered or brought up. Like, Alicorn Amulet, where did it come from? Did it belong to someone? Magpie was an absolute genius to bring that kind of, give that bit of story to, and lore to the Alicorn Amulet. And speaking of which, I'm really hoping that we get the next episode of Princess Trixie Sparkle 2 this year. I'm really hoping we do. Because how that the third episode, I believe, I think it's up, yeah, it's episode 3, I believe, ended. I'm very curious to see what happens next. Same thing with the second thing that, you know, I'm going to bring up is the whole Weather Factory problem in Tanks for the Memories. How did not, you know, the Twilight and her friends realize or question, Rainbow Dash, why were you and Tank in that giant snowball? Why? And what would be the consequences of those actions? Or the unforeseen ones? Musescript, another genius, brings that to light. Like, what if a villain hidden away was like, that was actually a good idea. Maybe that would work. Interesting. And, also, there's that saying, be careful what you wish for. If it didn't work for Peter Parker and Spider-Man No Way Home, it was not, where did Rainbow Dash think it was going to work? But speaking of which, Musescript's Rainbow Dash trilogy that she made, and by the way, in the Heart Shell, that's the first part of this trilogy, she voices all the characters. I think the only one that she does not voice, now correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen them in a little bit, is Flutter Rose voices Luna. And speaking of which, Flutter Rose, I think at one point had like a little trailer out for an audio drama she was making called Chaotic Harmony. Is that still happening? If anyone knows, could you let me know by chance if you can? I would really appreciate it. But Rainbow, you really, this is the character growth that Rainbow Dash needed. And it's a shame the show did not do it. But Musescript did what the show did not do. And let me tell you, you want a character to go through hell? Rainbow Dash does. Like, figuratively, mentally, and in the third chapter, kind of literally. The hard shell is revolving around about Tank going into hibernation. Rainbow Dash is in a bit of a depression, and she gets a watch. And it says it could grant her a wish. And, of course, she makes the wish for Tank to come out of hibernation. Little does she know that there is a massive consequence to this. Tank falls seriously ill. And we come to find out that there is this evil being called Iris. Cool name, by the way. Who says, you got like 3 days to save him. And you got to find this herb and this color goddess stone. And there's a riddle. And I think it's a riddle or a song. And Rainbow Dash decides, no, I'm going to have to do this myself. I got to confront her. And which she does. I could say a lot about, a lot of these pony YouTubers that make audio dramas, they really know how to make villains you love to hate. Well, I'm just saying that right now, but before we get to that, she goes into the Demon Folk caves, and has to get these gems in order to defeat Iris. Little does she know, someone's following her. I'm not going to say who, but it's a very important character. She encounters her demon foe and Iris, but not as all as it seems. Appearances can be deceiving. And I won't reveal much of the rest of that story, in case anyone wants to go and see it and find out for themselves. The second part has the color goddess really up the ante, upped up the action, the story, the lore. We come to find out that there were beings more powerful and who were more ancient than the Alicorns themselves. And really, what could be more ancient than Alicorns? Well, 3 goddesses: Hyrika, Satra, and Lumina. And Hyrika is the one who is the Pegasus goddess who was able to help Celestia with the sonic rain boom. And I like how also that's kind of explained, because we never knew much about the sonic rain boom in the show, except from when Rainbow Dash said it was just a mere mare's tale. It was just a story, a legend. I like how Musescript brings in the lore behind the sonic rain boom. With a new impending threat looming over Equestria, a very familiar face shows up, but is she friend or foe? I'm not going to say who it is. And I have to say, the cast is very colorful. And there is the villain. He, like I said, I love a good villain. The villain's name is King Sephiros. He's king of a race called Canaans. Part wolf, part dragon. And that's actually a pretty cool concept. A dragon-wolf hybrid creature. I really like that. And they're all giants, actually. And King Sephiros wants to take over Equestria's land because his land is pretty much dead. I'm not going to say why, but this leads to his daughter, Liako, journeying to Equestria to help them stop her father. A lot of things happen. I'm not going to say much more about that one. All I'll say is you better bring some tissues, and it's a ride. Like, it's kind of slow in the beginning, but it builds. It just, as when they finally start going to the Deadlands, where King Sephiros resides, it starts escalating. It just gets more and more intense. I don't know how I can explain the the third one, without really going into spoilers, the only thing I could say that without anything really spoilery, involving the story, and just to let you know, there is a couple, there are a couple times where it gets a little scary, like a little, not gory, but like just in case, like if you have a little kid watching, or like it's not in all the episodes. There is like an episode where it has like a warning saying scary images or something like that. I can't remember which episode, but like if you have like a little kid or you're babysitting, you put that on, just skip that little bit in the beginning, and then I think it's safe from there. How can I go into the third part without spoiling anything? And I can't talk about the epilogue. That's definitely spoilerish. How the best way I could put it is, imagine all reformed, non-reformed villains of Equestria all coming together for one final showdown. That's the best way I could put the third part without going into any details. Imagine every villain: Discord, Nightmare Moon, Sombra, Tyrek, Queen Chrysalis. Imagine all of them just ganging up on Equestria and just wreaking utter havoc. That's the best way I could put it. I can't go into the epilogue. I can't, because then that's really spoiling everything. I'm just going to say this. I do believe in character growth. I do. And Muse Script gave Rainbow Dash so much needed character growth. Because of this character growth, Rainbow Dash is more open, a lot more sensitive. Trust me, she cries a lot. That's one thing I will say. She cries a lot in this trilogy. And she is put through the ringer. Rocky Balboa had it easy. I'm sorry, this is nothing against Rocky, but there is that quote from Rocky Balboa where he says how it's not how you can give a punch, it's that you can take the punch and keep moving. I'm sorry, I don't remember the full quote, but it's something like that. Rainbow Dash is getting emotionally, mentally pummeled and tested left and right. And like I said, she cries a lot. More so than she's ever done in the show. And due to this character growth, she's actually become one of my favorites. And it's not because of the show. It's because of this trilogy that Muse Script created. Like I said, I am a sucker for a good story, but I really love that she gave characters that you loved, that you knew, new characters, villains you love to hate, and Rainbow Dash getting so much character growth. And that's why she's one of my favorites. It's not because of the show. It's because of this trilogy that Muse Script created. I strongly advise, if you want to check it out, go ahead. If you like My Little Pony, fantasy, or just a good story, or if you're just plain curious, check it out. Go to Muse Script's channel, and see if you like it. I do know that the story is now over. The trilogy, that's the story of the Rainbow Dash trilogy is done, and I've enjoyed it. As much as I wanted it to continue, there is that saying, all good things must come to an end. But this is something I'm going to treasure for as long as I live. I love this trilogy. I love the characters, the voice acting, the art, some of the comical moments, the sad moments. I had a box of tissues when I would watch this. I'm like, oh no, I better be prepared. I don't know if I'm going to be crying during this. And it just goes to show how much talent these people have, where they're like, the show touched on this but never went back to it. Let me touch upon it, and grow upon it, expand it. This is why I like these audio dramas. These are done by some very gifted and talented people. All of them. Voice actors, artists, directors, the ones who are behind the story. They're all gifted and talented. And they're absolutely amazing for what they do. They can voice a character that will utterly make you jump, and then turn around and play a character that'll make you smile, laugh, or even cry. And, yeah. Rainbow Dash gets a lot of well-earned character development, and that it was needed. So yeah, if you want to check it out, go right ahead. If you're curious, type in Mutascript, MLP on YouTube, and you should find it pretty easy. So, yeah. Until then, I am Draco Prime 220, and I'll see you later.